Welcome to another South Beach Sessions. He's Domonique Foxworth. He is one of the most thoughtful and respected voices you'll find on ESPN or anywhere, frankly. The intersection of sports, race, culture, business. You know him as an NFL cornerback. He turned president of the NFL Players Association, COO of the NBA Players Association, MBA from Harvard. You know, all the stuff. He's a smart guy, smart football player. He's not a caveman. He's not a dum-dum. He knows how to do things, and he's my friend, and I love him. And I wanted to talk to him about love and the way that men, athletes, masculine types reacted to, I thought of you when I saw the cover because I know that you live in service of your wife in a way that is beautiful. And I saw the cover of Vogue magazine, and Rihanna's on it, and A$AP Rocky is carrying their baby behind her. And I thought the reaction to that was funny when it was met with just masculinity. I don't want to say black masculinity, but masculinity. People thought he shouldn't be walking behind her. He should be the man. He should be strong.
Like, I felt like the reaction was absurd. It's just, I mean, I think with most things, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not reacting to, especially when something's not impacting us, we're not reacting to what's happening as much as we're using an opportunity to, like, tell the world something about ourselves. Because for anybody to have a problem with that?
Well, let's not make it about the problem, though. Just explain to me, because I have learned this. I grew up in a traditionally Hispanic household. All I saw around me was women in service of men. I thought that wearing the pants in the family, a man does that. Yeah. And when I got married, found love, all those things, I'm like, oh, my God, I was such a fucking idiot. I'm such an idiot. Like, that's not the right way to do it just because it's the way that's always been done in my culture. I need this woman to teach me what my blind spots are. I have to trust her. I have to be vulnerable with her. I have to live in service of her.
So I think there's a history in American culture of black masculinity being undercut. So I think maybe that's part of the people who are using this as some other way to say something else. And like, I then say that, though. Don't get mad at the picture, because I think what the picture represents is something that is very relatable to black people, is like women being the head of the household, because that's how it was in my house. And like, my dad was a military veteran, able-bodied, smart, awesome guy. But you know who made the decisions? My mom. And I think that I probably followed that framework a bit myself.
Oh, but my mom tricked me, right? Because she was they come over
secretly making the decisions.
Yeah, she was secretly making them, but propping up the idea of my father as masculine role model, as is only correct in Latin culture. The man must be in charge of the house.
We have a running joke in my family that I brought to everyone's attention, that my wife is best in a crisis. And so we had a flight canceled. So we're on this trip. We went out to Aspen first, and we landed in Denver, and our connecting flight to Aspen was canceled. And she snaps into action. I grab all the kids, and I go sit down on a bench and entertain them for the hour it takes for her to find out where our bags are, get them out, set up a Sprinter van to drive us through a blizzard, and convince them that they needed to do it no matter what they thought they were doing tonight. They're driving this motherfucking family to Aspen. And I sat there and played games and entertained the kids, because I know what time it is. I know where my skills lie. If we need to fight somebody, I'm there. If we need to figure something out, she's got it. And obviously there are things.
Now, you thought you were good at crisis management. Yes, you thought you were fine. No, you thought you can handle anything.
Not like that. And I guess I would ask you, like, what was it in your life? Where did you discover? Because you talk about this transformation, but you talk about it like you hit a switch, which that's not how learning works.
But it's not a switch. So I'm in my late 40s, and I have hardened into the repressed certainty of I'm good alone, I'm fine with somebody else, but we're going to serve my career. I don't have kids. I'm going to have fun, enjoy myself, and enjoy the freedom that my parents came to get from me. And it's going to be, you'll pry the freedom out of my cold, dead fingers. I will not take much in the way of advice. I don't need consultation. I'm a formed human being. I know what I want. And what I've wanted is what I've always had that didn't actually make me happy, which is the recreation of the patterns of the woman serves the man, woman serves the man, woman serves the man. And without ever thinking, well, that's not right. It's just what I saw everywhere. It wasn't just at home. It was all the Latin culture friends. It was all my grandparents. It's what I inherited. And so I wasn't thinking about it much. The career was first and everything else was second. And then she comes into my life and just sort of knocks me over. Like, it wasn't, women were trying to show me before that. They were trying to show me, but they were doing it subtly. And trying to show me doesn't work. I have to see it for myself. Like, I had to see for myself, God almighty, I was a fucking idiot.
What's an example of the time where you realize, I mean, they happen all the time. I gave you that example. For me, is the most recent one. There's so many of them in my life but it wasn't something that I had to learn. It was something that I was looking for without knowing I was looking for it. You know, it's like when I'm in relationships with other women, I'm like, oh, I wasn't conscious, but I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I was looking for someone who was like, had all the things that I wanted, but also could take care of things and could like convince me of things that I needed to convince of. Not to say that like I'm not trying to make her into some sort of deity, like that would be absurd and probably unfair of me to do of her, but
you respect her from there, and you're sort of amazed. You're daily awed. Now you're an impressive human being. You can accomplish, you can conquer, you can do big things in sports and business. But I have been awed by her strength. Like that, one of the great humblings here is the realization. Oh my God, why did women ever give power to the men in this country and in this world? We cannot be trusted with this power. They are so much better than us.
You used the word called freedom when you were talking about the life that you had before, and I don't know. It's something that's been bouncing around in my head for a while. It's like the idea of what is actual freedom. Because everybody is like beholden to something. It's kind of choosing what you're beholden to. So like the idea that when you're a bachelor, you have freedom. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but you aren't free. You're beholden to something and someone at all times. And those like expectations can feel like a burden if you don't appreciate that there's nothing that doesn't come without some cost or some price, and the exchange rate on what I get for whatever like air quotes freedom I'm giving up.
No, but I got to tell you though, with me though, what I got was this was so interesting to me, and I don't know that she could have given me a greater gift or a greater learning. It became very easy to give away freedom when I can trust that if I followed the way that she loved me and what I was feeling inside, I could have joy for the first time, like real joy, because I was sharing it with somebody who was so impressive to me that I just wanted to please her, because pleasing her made me happier than anything else makes me. I don't even know if I knew what freedom looked like. My father might be on the autistic scale in terms of like being able to communicate to me that he's proud of me or that he loves me. Like there might be something there that is very hard for him to do. And I think some of that is in me too. Like I think.
You said it was trust. When was your trust broken?
I don't know that I was hurt by a lack of trust. I feel like I was just trusting. I trusted in myself. Let me see if I have this right, because no one's ever asked me that question. But my parents come over here as exiles. You get embedded into the identity of don't trust anybody. Like we've got each other and nobody else. You've got the family. You've got the people. Don't trust anybody. And so I don't know that it's because the trust was ever broken. I think it was because the trust, I never gave it. I just never gave it, and never gave it any thought either.
You said you learned what your mom was doing was like kind of propping up, I guess. Like
not really propping up. So imagine, okay, so your exile parents get here, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know the language, they don't have any money, they've left their families behind, they're teenagers, and they have a kid. And they're in a different country. I mean, I don't know what those formative impressions are. My whole family was just very small, and that's what we had. You have this, freedom, and work. Those are the three things you have. You don't need anything else. No one else has to be here. I can look through without having realized it while it was happening, my parents never had the inheriting of another family because my brother and I were with women and had to allow another family into our lives. You grew up 1,000 times faster than I did.
I guess in certain ways.
You arrived at your wife knowing what you wanted in your 20s.
But the thing is that changes. The thing, being 18 doesn't make you an adult. Being 25 doesn't make you adult. I'm 40. I turned 40 earlier this week. It doesn't make you like an adult in the idea that you're fully formed. I'm different. I'm a lot more different now than I was 5 years ago. Probably more different than I was from the time when I was 15 to 18, from the time that I'm 35 to 38. So like, that's one of the most interesting things. And like, I don't know where you are in this stage of your relationship with Valerie, is you grow in ways where you grow away and you grow back together, and life changes and circumstances change.
No, but this is a part I wasn't doing. I wasn't doing the growing inside of a relationship.
Right.
I was doing the growing for myself or whatever I thought was growing. I wasn't doing it with someone else. I wasn't doing the sharing of it. It was like, here, come over here, support career, support who I am, support what I'm doing. This is a great life, isn't it? It's pretty great to be with me. Let's go do fun, great things together and not grow.
That's the ego thing, because like I remember thinking like that when I was in college.
But that's why I'm saying you were an adult faster than I am. This is the precisely the reason I'm saying I don't know if I have like, this is such a whopping generalization. I think I've said it to you before, but just my experience with the 3 different cultures, black culture, white culture, Cuban culture, is that black boys grow up faster, become more adult in more worldly things because life is hard, much faster than the average white boy. And very last back there somewhere is Cuban boy who's still stuck under his mom's dress or being, masculine testosterone guy. I'm going to, this is cliche obviously, but I'm going to open my shirt, be cold chains. I'm going to wear cologne, and I'm going to be a womanizer. I'm going to be a Lothario. I'm going to be faithful to no one, especially not love.
Those things, I feel like it's like my parents brought my son a rock tumbler. And so it's like just a thing that spins. You put like rocks in it, and then it spins them for like 2 days. It'll spin it, and then the rock comes out like smooth and shiny and presentable. And it's a kind of a imperfect metaphor, but obviously like you have to bang up against some stuff to like be formed into something that's worth. And it feels like you were, anytime something was a little bit uncomfortable, like, nah, this ain't for me.
Pretty much, yes. And it's this is where so much of learning is, right? Where you can only do some of this growing unless you go toward the pain.
Yeah.
That I don't know that people listening to this understand this part of it, that there's growth on the other side of pain, and that you should choose it on the front end. People can say that after they've done it, right? And say, yeah, I'm grateful, and I don't have any regret about that awful thing that happened to me that I learned from. But choosing it on the front end, I never chose it. I never risked the vulnerability involved to actually give yourself over to a woman. Just submitted, all ego, vanity, just showing all of yourself, all your insecurities, all your vulnerabilities, so that she is your safe space. She's got all your treasures, all the things you don't show anybody. Whatever the fat is on me that represses whatever it is those feelings are that only are for her. Like, she ends up opening them up because it was safe to be there. Like, I don't imagine that you had the same experience with growing up that I did. I never had to be an adult. I can always be a child just covering sports and concentrating on my work.
I notice in talking to you that your work is the place, because I guess that's Cuban culture, or that's just your culture.
Well, it's freedom. The only way to real freedom from communist, any kind of communism, is you have to work.
But I've seen
the American dream. You have to work. Work is the thing. Nothing else matters. My family lived in support of the work. Every sacrifice was made in support of the work.
But I've seen you in pain over work. I've rarely seen you in pain over like romantic relationship stuff.
No, but you've only known me with Valerie. This is the happiest version of me.
I get it, but I guess my point is, I would have seen those other things if you were available. Like, I've known you before you met Valerie, and the road with Valerie's been different than any other road, but like you were going through things that I went through when I was in my early to mid 20s relationship wise, and it wasn't like changing you. But that's different for me when I watch you at work. It's like, or when I talk to you about work, I talk to you about these other things. It's like, I guess that's the cultural thing where it's like, this is hard. This sucks. And it's worth getting banged around in the rock tumbler here. But over there, no. Like, I'm not going to throw myself in there. I'm not going to expose myself to that until now.
Well, but wait a minute. You couldn't have gotten to Ashley. There's no way you got to Ashley saying, I'm going to put down my patterned thoughts of what masculinity is supposed to be in black culture, in athletic culture, in whatever it is you were doing in your late teens and early 20s. There's no way you arrived at her doorstep knowing exactly what you wanted to grow.
Of course not. But I was closer to it because I had the example that I wanted to see. While your parents were happily married, presumably, you had you said your mom created a facade of what was actually going on. Like, I saw it. I saw what was happening in my house, and I saw the relationship that was there, and I wanted it, something like it. And what that meant to me was I needed a strong black woman. And I guess she didn't have to be black. I dated a white girl when I was in college who was like from a similar situation, and just a strong woman who was smart. Like, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, you need to be hot, you need to be smart. And like the funniest thing about going through those experiences is, this is going to sound ridiculous to 18 or 22-year-old me, hot doesn't matter that much at all. And like, there's no disrespect to my wife, still super hot.
Right.
However, but like,
no, you got to live with somebody, man. You got to live with somebody and chase kids around, and hot only helps you so much if you've got a baby that's sick, or you've got 6 hours of work to do that you didn't expect parenthood to come with.
And I say this to all the men that are listening, that different stuff gets sexy when you get older. And like, the other stuff doesn't go away. Like, I'm on South Beach right now. I look and I'm like, damn, that'd be fun. But also, like, last night, my wife was lacing up my kids' ice skates before we went ice skating last night, and just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to explain because
I don't think it's that hard.
Like,
to explain.
goddamn, that's mine, and I love it, and I appreciate it, and I can't wait to show it.
But how is it hard to explain that you admire the woman that you love, that you're awed by her, that you respect her so much, because the daily things that you see in the loving of those children is something that teaches you about how to love better, how to be a better dad, because you're following her. Dwayne Wade got in all sorts of trouble when he said Gabrielle Union, I follow. She's a light, I follow.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. And it's fine. Like, I'm attracted to the way that she explained how to better do their job to the United people. And she was right. And she made everyone's day a little easier because she's smarter than all of them. And she looked at the process and was like, how about you guys do this, this, and this? And this will be better for me. And this will also be better for you. It'll be also better for everyone in here. I know this is tough. And like, she handled it. And she's just like, I give her a hard time. I don't want her to change, but it's like, she's a stay-at-home mom. She could be so many other things.
She's sacrificing everything that she could be to make sure that your children and her home get taken care of correctly.
People wave around my Harvard Business School degree like it makes me special. My wife has 2 postgraduate degrees from Harvard. One is a law degree, which is actually hard to get into. And that's 2 of her 3 postgraduate degrees on top of her mighty Maryland Terrapin degree. And like, it's also incredibly charismatic and attractive. Like, she could be a huge success in any field that she desires. It's personal and all that stuff. But like, the applying all that to my family is like more valuable than anything you could earn, And
but it's the greatest treasure, right? It makes it so that it doesn't become hard for you to make sure to be home and present emotionally, as opposed to going and doing 1,000 television shows, because you could keep conquering like an athlete conquered. I'm not even talking about, I'm not talking about conquest. I'm talking about, you can have 10 businesses right now if that's what you chose. If you chose to put your mind to, I want to be an entrepreneur who is just running shit, you could do it over 10 businesses right now.
What do you care about? I mean, I'm asking you this question, but I think that's the question that I asked myself when I got out of business school, because I went to business school with the plan of turning my football contract into like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was like, you know where I can go do that? Harvard Business School. I'm going to study so I can get good enough at the entrance exam that I can get in the GMAT, like the standardized exam to get in. I spent a year doing that, and then I went to school and was like, I'm going to get really good and make all these relationships and learn everything so that I can work my balls off in the next chapter, and then I'm gonna make hundreds of millions of dollars. There was, he's dead now, a professor Clayton Christensen who had, you know how everyone used disrupt as a business term. He's the one who started that term. Everyone misuses it, but it doesn't matter. He used his theory to apply that to the way you manage your life. And the core question is an obvious one, but it's how will you measure your life? He had an illness that he knew was going to kill him, and so it changed the way that he approached it, and taking his class and thinking like, how will I measure my life? That's the first time I'd ever thought that, because you become professionalized as an athlete, a good athlete, at a young age.
Well, not only professionalized, but I don't even know how you have the bandwidth to concentrate. To get to the top of what you got to the top of, I don't know how you have any time to concentrate on anything else. It's so competitive.
That's because I'm awesome. So you didn't answer my question. How do you measure your life?
You asked me what I wanted. That's what you asked me. And how do I measure my life? Those are two different questions. What I want is joy. I'll tell you a story. It's a bit embarrassing because I've gone looking for it all over and tried to be open-minded about it. And I ended up in a room doing silly things, banging on pillows loud as I can, and sort of praying to my dead grandparents, all of whom died single and alone, and it was a real disconnected, dry family that didn't have a lot of happiness in it. The therapist was asking me to pray, to let go of whatever my constrictions were about how stupid all of this was, right? Because I did not like any of what we were doing. To pray to my grandparents for joy, to have a different experience with life than the patterns that were handed down to me by, I would say, joyless people who had to fight to get away from some evil shit, and had to only trust themselves. And from within that, I began much of the work that ended up being open enough to allow the vulnerability that I now give to Valerie in the name of, I wish to get to joy, right? I wish I have all the things anybody in my position would want in terms of material things, freedoms, and openness. I just needed someone to share those things with so we could both build the relationship of growing, right? And now the work is getting in the way of it. Now I want to get home to my wife, but we're building a company, and I didn't realize how hard building a company would be. An idiot, right? Just an idiot. Just an idiot. An idiot. I thought Skipper would build the company. I could just be over here farting around with my friends 3 hours a day.
Yeah, well, you talked about this on the show today, how early on when you first started having these thoughts, we talked about me coming over, and I was like, nah, man. Building a company is hard.
But see, yes, it's been hard, but I thought for sure with someone like you and with surrounding myself with so many people who loved me that it would be less hard, that it would just be, that I would get more of that joy by being able to share this with everyone I care about.
What in this has been, I know we talked about earlier that no one is happy to be in the pain while they're in the pain, but afterwards they realize that it shaped you. What in this process do you think has shaped you?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Doing it with my wife. Now this one's going to be interesting, right? Because she is the muse here. She's the only reason I was able to do any of this. I would not have been able to have the bravery. Man, ESPN's such an easy gig. Just go in there, talk. You got the safety net. It would have been safe forever. Would have been safe forever. Just don't make waves. Just stay there 20 years. Take the paychecks. Tony and Mike, do PTI until you're 80. It would be great. But I want a different experience with my work, with my life, with the balance. I want to be able to have picnics with my wife. I want to be able to go do things around the work. I want the work to serve me, take me places, have me live fun things, make good things all over the place, film, storytell, have legacy, journalism legacy in Miami, have jobs for everybody, and also enjoy the holy hell out of the work.
That's a lot of responsibility.
No, but I couldn't have done any of it. I wouldn't have chosen any of it if I didn't have the strength at my back to choose something that would be inspirational in the service of love. But it gets tested, right? Because I want to be at home not thinking about any of this stuff, not any of it. I want to be at home with my wife connected. And my wife, who does not care about sports, I don't know what she referred to the Super Bowl as, but it wasn't the Super Bowl. Like, the other day I was trying to explain to her, I'm like showing her the Miami game. I'm like, you don't understand the Miami program. It's getting to the Final Four here. And as I'm explaining it to her, she walks away from me. Like the game's on the television. I'm like, I've been covering this team since it was in a ballroom in the James L. Knight Center down the street. There were like 2,000 people there. 40 years they've been trying to. She walks. This isn't interesting to her. She wants me to tell bigger stories. She does not want me to sit here hitting this same dumb drum for the next 30 years, just banging next to, she wants me to do bigger things, better things. And I only believe that I can do them from outside of the safety of ESPN and here because I'm in pursuit of the light that comes with sharing this balance with her. Like, she's doing this with me. This is very much her job. Like, it's not, I need support at home because what I'm doing is difficult.
What keeps you here, though? Because you have the financial wherewithal.
Well, it's what I've built all my life. I've spent, if I had this converson, listen to this.
You built it all your life to get to the point to where you can live your life, the life that you want to live.
I'm going to tell you an interesting story. So I'm on a park bench with my father, okay? And this was a couple of weeks ago. My mother's in surgery, hip surgery. She's got an assortment of ailments that I don't know if she's going to come out of this surgery. And I'm with my dad, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to him about gratitude, and we're looking at the water. I'm talking to him about, came from Cuba to come here and give me a better life. Used to go to Chicago, hates the cold every week. Used to go Monday through Friday. Didn't want to uproot me because work was the most important thing. Dan's on a path to college. Dan's going to succeed. Was going to Chicago on Monday through Friday and coming back. And I'm talking to my father about how grateful I am for all that they sacrificed while not knowing if my mother's going to come out of this surgery. And as I'm talking to him, wanting him to be proud of everything that he did so that I can have all so that I could build a media company in Miami, the place that he chose for us when he was dreaming about American dreams in his 20s. How do I get to warm Miami and build a paradise? I got a media company here that has jobs for people in Miami that wouldn't exist if this thing we built hadn't been here. And I'm looking at him as I'm talking to him, and I'm like, and I'm trying to get him emotionally to understand how grateful I am and how loving and beautiful this is. And in the moment that I'm with him, feeling this, and I can't reach him on it, right? Because I just can't reach him on a connection that is just like, appreciate with me as mom might die here, this wonderful thing that you helped me build. I had the very strong feeling of, well, if work was the only thing that mattered and you're not going to enjoy this with me right now as we worry about your wife's possible death and my mother's possible death, then why were we doing it? Like, why did I have to obsess so much for 30 years in the work and the doing of the work, the identity of the work, if at the end of it, it's not going to be something I enjoy? So when you say that people change or they change as they go, what I've learned in the doing of this is that if I don't enjoy it, no matter how successful it is, it will be unsuccessful. Like, if it could be a $1 billion company and it's irrelevant if I do not figure out the way to create the balance so that this is all a joyful experience.
Have you created that balance?
Not yet, but I'm closer to it than I've ever been, right? I'm closer to it because I have an awareness. Unfortunately, what I did is like the hardest thing in the middle of it. Hey, start a business when I didn't think it was going to be hard. You look at me like I'm an idiot. You know me enough to know that that's true. I didn't think it was going to be hard.
You never answered how you measure your life. So when you put yourself in your dad's shoes, years from now. I don't know what you imagine the moment will
Are
be.
you asking me a legacy question? Because I
No.
don't have kids.
No, I'm not asking you a legacy question. I'm asking you, like, you said, what was it you wanted to, like, grab your father, and, like, then what was it all for? So when you're 80, and I don't know where you'll be sitting or what'll be the moment that causes you to have, like, a life flash before your eyes moment, what are the words that you want to hear said to you that will have you say, man, no matter what happens from here, I did it?
Well, I think you'd say them. I think if I asked you right now, based on how you know me, based on the specifics of what you and I have experienced.
I refuse to answer the question.
Listen to me.
I asked you the question.
No, listen to me. You think I'm deflecting here, and I'm not deflecting, because I think that you would say of me the words that I would want said of me, just knowing what you know about me as a person, as a professional, how it is that I've tried to work with you, what it is that I've tried to do through my work, supporting the things that you are, not just voice, but creativity, giving you a confidence when you got here raw to, like, oh, that's a special dude who seems really decent, and all he would need is just some fertilizer on, you could do it however you want in this world. You had that confidence. You don't need me to have that confidence, but I helped you there. That's what I would want from the people who have worked around me, people who know me, people who care about me, people who loved me. And then beyond that, I will have wanted to enjoy this more than I have up to now, because I learned some things along the way that brought me closer to joy.
What did you? So I guess I did a poor job. So you got me all off track, because now I'm all emotional about all the things that I've never said to you about what you've provided for me, because it was something that I needed at that point in my life, and it was great. It's an example. It was not just an example, but a place to go and say, oh, we don't have to do it this way. But I'm going to move that aside, and I'm going to force you to answer this question. So, like, I will paint the whole scenario for you if it helps, because what I'm imagining is there is somebody, you know, the shoes that you were in when you were talking to your father and you were trying to get him to have a moment. There will be somebody sitting next to you at a funeral, at something, when we're all old and one of us dies. We're going to be at a funeral, and someone's going to say something to you, trying to reach that same spot for you that you were trying to reach for your father. What is that person going to have to say for you to reach that spot? What's the question they're going to have to ask?
Why is it, and forgive me for getting stuck in the mud here, that you're saying you're going to get emotional with what it is that I have done for you? And in there, to me, is the question that would end up getting asked. Like, I don't mean to get too deep in the weeds here.
No,
but like,
I know exactly what you're saying, and that's why I think this work kills you. Is because you love me the same way you love Billy, the same way you love Roy, the same way you love Chris, the same way you love Mike, same way you love Stu. Like, this is family to you, and I think that's what it would be, is if all of us and all people like that have had that opportunity, and we are in a place that makes us happy. Is that?
Well, and you would be telling, and you would be telling others, you would also be telling others who I was, because you actually got to know me, because you know me for real, and that you can articulate to others who it is that I was. Does that not answer your question?
You said that I was asking a legacy question, and you deflected it by saying you don't have any children. You have a legacy. You don't need to have children to have legacy. Like, we are, like, I think Bomani would even speak to this, and like, obviously we all would have success or have done other things without you, but I think we've all been shaped by you to some degree. Pablo and Mina and all of us have been made better by having gone through this opposite of a pressure cooker, because I think all of us are like more like thrive in those environments, and then we got here and was like, oh, this is different. And so that, I mean, I guess does that feel like legacy to you?
Well, you think I'm avoiding your question.
You are, but that's fine.
No, but hold on, because I don't. What I'd like this to be, as it grows and goes forward is I'd like to be more vulnerable with people. I'd like to show them more of myself. I would like to be less of an interviewer who hides behind the shield of I can ask questions well and never. I said this to somebody the other day who said, do you always ask so many questions of others? And as I'm walking away flippantly, I just shouted over my shoulder, yes, it's an excellent way to avoid intimacy. People love talking about themselves. So if I ask you a million things about you, I never have to show anybody the real me. I can hide forever in the asking of questions.
I feel like this must be with your early girlfriend. So like, it's where you say like, I'm in for intimacy. I'll answer your questions. And then you don't. You just keep telling them that you are. Because like the point of me asking you the question isn't necessarily to get the answer as much as it is to understand how you think. And you keep saying, why don't you answer the question? No, I don't want to answer the question. I want to know what you think. I want to know what makes you tick.
I would love to know that the people that I admire, that I respect, that I love, that what I gave to them was something of value that made them happier.
You have. So then again, back to the other question. Why do you keep coming back here? You've done that.
Is it over? Can I just leave? Can I leave now? Can this be my retirement?
This is the point. Like you use the word freedom, and when you guys left ESPN, it was freedom, and everything is about being free, and you're like, you have all the freedom, and with that freedom, you still haven't put yourself in the place where you say that you want to be.
I'm trying.
You're not. You're not.
How can you possibly say that?
You're not.
If this thing that we're building here is what I believe it's going to be and what the audience roots for it to be, the starting point, I wanted the audience to know, and I wanted to talk to you, someone I trust and someone I can be vulnerable with about this stuff. Like, I want them to have a clear understanding of where it is that I'm trying to take this thing and why it is that I'm trying to take it there. Like, I want to make an attempt to be more vulnerable because I think that it would have value for me therapeutically to show to reveal more of myself to everyone, like employees, listeners, everyone. Throw everything out there and have it all be judged in the name of the real freedom that I seek in both my marriage and my work, so that I may have balance.
What is it that you think people don't know about you that they want to know, or that you want them to know? Because I know things about you that I wish that other people knew, but
that's the stuff I was trying to get you to say when you were trying to tell me that I was deflecting your question. Because in there to me is the soulful stuff.
You picked me up from the hotel today with my kids around. Was there ever a time when you imagined that your life would be like that? That you'd be chasing around 3 kids?
I've done so little thinking in my life about having kids. This is the first time I've ever considered it, which seems too late given that I'm, 54 years old and I'm getting late to this party. But yes, I would love to have kids with my wife in a stable America, in a stable world that welcomes a child that isn't going to be buried by climate change in 30 years because we've left them some terrible world, apocalyptic world that is civil war fighting. So at the very first time that I'm thinking about having kids after 50 years on this earth is also the very first time I'm thinking about that kid being devoured by the earth.
So that's you.
I'm not trying to actively have kids, but I'm not trying to actively have kids.
Man, all of them in your sex life now.
Well, I mean, that's what you're asking me.
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you, and you've managed to artfully deflect and blame it on the earth this time, is like the idea that 50 years ago the world was a better place to bring kids into. Not true. Shit sucked then too. Shit sucks now. Shit's going to suck in the future. Do you regret not having kids?
I do not regret not having kids. It's not something that I've given much thought to until recently. Like, I did not want kids or think about the having of kids or the responsibility of kids or the interruption of kids. I did not think about that until the last couple of years.
The Cuban masculinity that you talked about, like, surprises me that, like, carry on the name. Your parents did all they did to get you here. Is any part of you feel bad for not?
I've always thought of that as kind of selfish, the idea of carrying on your name as if that is something that would be important enough to take on the undertaking of responsibility and difficulty and challenge that is raising a child correctly with love and with knowing how to properly impart with care functional things on a human being so that that human being can have a better life than the one that you knew. That seems really hard. It seems like an enormous responsibility that is also a little bit terrifying to me.
It always seemed like that?
Yes, because my mother worked in an anti-abortion clinic growing up. Like she was, like I saw so much in my childhood of women under great difficulty and duress being encouraged to have children, and sex and the having of children being a scary thing, being a thing that brought bad consequences if you had a child, brought a child into the world, and then had the responsibility of that child getting in the way of whatever achievement is.
When you're in the room with your father and your mom's in surgery, it never crossed your mind? And maybe I'm assuming something about your mother that I shouldn't assume.
Well, what I say of my mother is the old Gary Shandling joke, right? Because I was very much under my mother's skirt for a long time in my life without knowing it. But it's the old Gary Shandling joke. And this, I never saw this. And nobody ever had the courage to tell me or inform me of it, which bums me out because I would have liked to have seen it. The Gary Shandling joke is, of course my mother wants me to have kids, but not with somebody else.
Your mother's relationship with previous girlfriends.
Oh, not good. Not good. No, divisive. No, now I'm betraying my mother on South Beach session. She's still alive. I'd be so much more comfortable talking about this if when I was when I was on that park bench with my father weeks ago, she would have passed.
You're all right, I won't do that.
But she's still here.
Yeah,
she's
I won't
still
do that
here.
to her. I won't do that to her. I will not let you kill her by betraying confidences. That story, whatever that story is,
that's a little too close.
It's
too close to the bone.
It's gonna be a real uncomfortable call whenever it happens.
Whenever that gets back,
I'm calling you immediately to find out that story, because that sounds like a good story.
No, but my family, oh my God, my family made it so hard to connect with other families. Yeah. It's hard to explain to people what an exile's life, and I'm not talking about mine because I was shielded from it, but my grandparents and my parents get to this country and they're not letting anybody in, not anybody different, just people who look and think like they do. Like there's safety in that. There's safety in the tribe of that. Miami, that's all over Miami. It's all I ever saw in Miami. Like it's only when they started sending me to schools that had somebody other than Cubans in them that I sort of started learning some of that stuff.
I'm getting to the age with my parents where they are human more and more often. And I guess that's not a good description, where they need more help.
Yes, you end up becoming somebody, I think, and I wasn't expecting this. They become children. The older they get, life ends up getting reversed. And now when you get into your 70s and 80s and 90s, you end up taking care of them. Yeah. You couldn't have, you didn't see that one coming?
It's not that I didn't see it coming, but it comes at you fast. Like, you know it's coming. And while you also have children, it gets really challenging. I guess the hip surgery for your mother, what has it look like for you?
I mean, mortality, I've seen their age. I mean, my father on television was aging so that at the end, and not a lot of people know this, it's not a thing that I have talked about before, but the television show ended basically because my father didn't want to do it anymore, but couldn't explain to me that he didn't want to do it anymore. And so he was just doing things to sabotage it. at the end. It was an amazing thing to watch, right? Because he totally faked the holdout with ESPN asking for more money when he didn't want more money. And then they gave him more money. And he's like, fuck, I got to stay. I thought that was going to work. I thought I was going to be able to trick them, get out a side door. They had insulted me by not paying me enough money, and now I have to stay here and sit next to my son. It was one of the strangest things because this happens. It's true. My father gets let off. He had spent his entire career getting to freedom, getting to work in this country, and then at 59 years old, he shows up one day, industrial engineer, made a good life for himself, worked hard, and was a factory manager at a fiberglass plant in Medley, Hialeah. Gets to the office, and all his stuff is in the garbage can. They've changed management. Like, all the stuff on his desk is physically in a garbage can, and that's it. 59 years old, you're fired, the job is over. You've always viewed yourself as a provider, and your identity is you're the man of the house, the Cuban man of the house, and it's to provide for your family. Boom, identity gone at 59, can't get another job. So I got to figure out something for him to do so that he's not making my mother crazy, being 20 hours a day with a lost identity in his 60s. And that was the television show. It's like, get him to do something structured and daily that he has something to build an identity around. And then it went to his head, and after 8 years, he just decided, I'm too big a star. I can't do this anymore. This is uncomfortable. I don't want to come into work but Dad, you only have to work an hour a day, and they pay you a lot of money. That's it. I'm fucking done working. I'm done. I've worked all my life. I'm done. I'm going to retire. I'm going to shuffle around over here until I die. Leave me the fuck alone. All of you, leave me the fuck alone. I'm not working anymore. I've worked for 50 years. Enough. Not for you, Dan. Not for Mom. Not for anyone. I'm done working. I'm retired.
Well, what does he do now?
Putzes around the house. Makes my mom crazy. It's not because he has anything better to do. He just wants to be old and left alone. He does not want to be a TV star. He does not want you to bother him when he's eating a ham sandwich and a delicatessen. He just wants to be old.
When's the last time you were, like, not working?
Ooh. When I took a sabbatical. When I took a sabbatical for a year, in, I'm going to say, my 30s. I'm going to say, oh, wow. Actually, no, it coincides. So here it is. So it coincides. I hadn't even thought about this in a long time. So I would say the when I realized that I was an adult was in my 30s, after my dad. So my dad, after he got let go from that job as a Cuban exile, went crazy. Went crazy in a way that I had to go into a facility where people were clucking like chickens to go get him from it because of the damage of losing his identity that way. And when I get there with my mother, she passes out, like, just at how overwhelming all of that was. And that's when I realized, oh, okay, I'm in charge now. I've got to take care of this. I got to take care of this family. Like, this is where it starts, where I have to be the adult that takes care of everybody here.
Families tend to follow patterns. Do you have, like, that fear for yourself? You work a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to work this much. I'd like to work less. And that was the only... I took a year off because I needed to tend to a bunch of different things that required my attention. And I guess I've been trying to, I've been since then trying to get to a form of a better and an easier balance with that. I don't want to not work,
right,
Domonique. Right. I just want to be able to enjoy everything I'm doing at work. Like, I told my father, this is goes back, it's one of the stories my mom loves to tell from when we were young. I was at the table, and my dad used to always come home complaining about his boss. Always. He got into a fight with his boss. What do you want to do, kid, is what he said to me. I said, I want to do something I love and make a lot of money. I was, 8 years old. And he's like, yeah, good luck with that, kid. Good luck with that. No such thing as that. I want to make a lot of money and have a lot of fun. And so I get to the job. Look at the job. It's right here. Look at it. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of fun. Fuck you, Dad.
It sounds like you want what you had at ESPN?
I don't want what I had at ESPN. I miss just sort of the general safety of not being responsible for everybody. It's much easier when Disney's taking care of the health care. It's not, or safer. It's safer. But I don't need to tell you this, and I'm not going to get you in trouble with your employer, but it became unsafe there for us. Yeah. Like the thing we were doing, they no longer were helping us build.
Yeah. Who are you? Like, I guess I'm wondering. We talked about identity, and
I get a lopsided amount of it from my work. It's an easy place to hide.
So, when you imagine going on picnics and having the free time to travel and herd sheep in Ireland with Valerie.
I'm going to Costa Rica for her birthday. Yes, we are going to do those things. We are traveling the world in between work-related stuff, and I'm trying to get to more and more of that.
The thing that was hardest for me that I did not expect, because I had other contracts on the table when I stepped away from football. And I stepped away in part because I didn't love it like I used to. And I thought that there was more things out there for me in the world to do. I never appreciated how much of my identity was tied up in being a football player. And it just struck me that it could be even more for you, because like I had a wife and a kid and one on the way soon, and I had other things, and I was young. You
am not young.
Are not young and don't have, you have a wife, but you don't have the kids, you don't have the other things, and you said a lopsided amount of your identity is tied up in that. Are you concerned about what happens to you? Because I guess I started this by saying, for me, that I didn't anticipate having a hard time finding an identity, because I thought I knew who I was. But I didn't know who I was outside of being a football player until I stopped. And I was like, oh. And then the executive thing was something that wasn't for me at the time. And then I stopped that. And then
you keep learning who you are. Isn't that the path you keep going? Because you and I have had these conversations about creativity, and you and I have had the conversations about, hey, Domonique, you can be a performer and impact the world and not have it be silly by having the things that you say and do be fun and charming and interesting and creative and thoughtful and change views, because you're using the platform in a way that's artistic. It took bravery for you to realize that that's what you wanted after football, after business.
How would Valerie describe you, and differently than you would describe yourself?
Oh, I do a great deal of self-ravaging, so she would describe me in stronger terms than I view myself. I wish that I could view myself the way that she views me, and vice versa. I would say Pablo did our wedding vows, and one of the things that she said that made me break down on the aisle, she told him, was, I wish that I could see myself the way that he sees me. That she wishes that she could judge herself, and it wouldn't be withering. It would be a careful, gentle love. And so I think the way that she would just describe me in terms that are more loving, gentle, heroic than I would describe myself. There would be some criticism of any way that I would describe myself. It would not be boastfully elegant and noble.
How would Valerie describe you? You told me it would be better than you would describe yourself, but is there a couple of words that you think she would use that you think that you wouldn't use?
Yes, there are a couple. She would describe me as a boss. Like a boss like Rick Ross, like a boss. Like I don't look at myself that way. No, seriously, like she would, I don't think of myself as a leader, as a boss, as any. I don't think of myself that way.
I've walked around South Beach with you. I've never walked around South Beach with Rick Ross, to be fair, but people treat you like that. I mean,
Yeah, I don't view myself that way, and I don't understand that perception of myself. I think I have blind spots about how people see me. Like people seem to think that I have it all together or that I will figure it out, and I don't know why or how they see that. That's not what I see in the mirror.
have you figured it out?
I'm working on it. I'm trying. I'm closer than I've been. I am closer than I have ever been to figuring it out.
How would you describe Valerie? What's the word that you would use for Valerie that she wouldn't use for herself?
A light. She thinks of herself as dark. She's dark, funny, and stuff. But and she's had a tough life. She's had grieving, and she's had hurt and pain in a way that I have not. I have not been hardened by pain, and yet she remains someone. I've had strong visions of chasing her toward a light, child-like, playfully, because if I follow her youth and her exuberance, I too will find light.
You found more than you found before?
Yes. Yeah, because I've never done joy well. I've never done joy well, and so she leads me to it gently by the hand, by teaching me about myself, teaching me things I didn't know, teaching me things about life and love that I didn't know were available to me. I thought I was never going to feel this. I was going to go to my grave not knowing what this felt like.
You think that this is a place that you could have gotten to without that?
No. I think I think that she is unique, and I also would not do the soulmate stuff, though. I would not believe across the cosmos through astrology someone brought here to teach me things, but the way that she makes me feel about myself and about our relationship and about what I'm doing, it's the closest thing that I have known to whatever man can call God. That feeling, whatever, I imagine it's how you love your children, or whatever the depths of your capacity for feeling for someone as a human. I would say that on earth, it's probably the closest thing we would know to knowing God, if you don't believe in that sort of thing.
The people who ask me, what's it like to have children, I kind of say that kids feel to me like drugs, and that they make everything so much better and also so much worse. Because I've never been sadder or more scared or more angry in my entire life. And you can think of all the things that you may have experienced. I've never, and it's minor things. And then also, I've never been happier. This, it really hit me. My sixth grader right now, I think, was in third grade, and I was driving her to school, and she was in the back seat singing along to some terrible Kids Bop version of a popular song, and she's just singing. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror at her, and my eyes well up.
God is there.
I'm so goddamn happy, and I'm like, this is so stupid. And if you would have told me a few years ago that I'd be happier in this moment where I'm doing nothing but driving a kid to school because she's so happy,
you wouldn't have understood. If I tell you you're celebrating the end zone after a pick six, and I come over here and tell you, you know what's going to make you really happy in a few years?
It's not even close. It's not even close.
It's funny, right?
It's not even close. And giving up a game-winning touchdown, the sadness that I felt when the whole city is like, you ruined our chances. You're the worst corner. The sadness that I felt is not even close to the sadness I felt when my son is disappointed or my youngest daughter is upset about something. Not something frivolous, but something that I can't fix. Like, I can't change the world. I can't bend the world.
You'd like to. You would.
I'll try, but I can't. And it's like an unfairness and injustice to them, and they recognize it, and they're upset about it.
You have to risk those low ends to feel the high ends, right? Like if you make me think about it, because I've spent not very much of my life thinking about why I haven't had kids. Like I really, you asked the question as if I might think that and have some regret in the future about this, but I have always been very even emotionally to protect myself, to convince myself, oh, you're not excitable. You're not depressed. You're safe in the middle. And that roller coaster that you just described, the high end of it sounds blissful. Like, Dan, why would you risk going to visit God if the low end of that is you're going to go to hell and you're going to feel something really terrible? Like, I'm generally, outside of work, I'm generally risk averse just about everywhere else.
What did that moment look like for you with Valerie? Like the idea that she is that light.
I fell in love with her outside of my comfort zone in the woods in Jacksonville at a music festival of weirdos because she wanted to be close to the earth in the spiritual dark of people making music in a place I would never go to if I wasn't following her toward the light. It's not for me. It's not where I want to be. The cabin's uncomfortable. I'm not a cabin person. Obviously not a cabin person. I don't need to explain to anybody that me, cabins, no. But it was very much a feeling. She wanted to go to the woods for reasons that I cannot explain. We were still in the dating process and symbolically outside of my comfort zone, as I am with all the things since then with her, with great growth and prosperity in my spiritual living. I was just knocked over by her in a moment, falling in love the way that you would fall in love in the romance novels, not even thinking that was possible for me, right? Like just realizing like, oh, okay, I love this person. This is what this feels like. This is what this is supposed to feel like.
It makes songs make sense. Like, I feel like that's the way that I would explain it is like songs that I've heard my whole life. Like, yeah. Oh, that's a good song.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, oh, shit.
Well, this is the thing. That's a good example. Music as art is a good example. I would say that one of the many things that Valerie has taught me that I didn't have access to before, and this is a stunner for me, is like, oh, that's what music is supposed to feel like when it feels good. That's what happens when music reaches you. That's what happens when an artist is singing with their soul into a microphone and you're like, oh, you were hurt by that. Or, oh, that was love and you're expressing it in the most artful, wonderful form. I never heard it that way before because music couldn't reach me that way.
It feels like that's true about a lot of art in that it tells you a lot more about the person experiencing it than it does the person who's like performing it, because you have to have felt it to feel it. You can have somebody explain it to you, but you need to be thinking about something. Like they need to remind you of a heartbreak you had for you to feel it, or remind you of a love you felt for you to feel it.
So I never understood that, though. I never understood somebody saying the idea of, well, I just knew. What do you mean you made a lifetime commitment for half your stuff on I just knew? Like, no, explain it to me logically, intellectually. Why would I give up all of my freedom? Why would I do that to? And you couldn't explain it to me. Like there was no explaining it to me. I wouldn't have believed that I could have felt it until I felt it. And then when I felt it, I was like, oh, that's what it is. Okay, that's what people are talking about.
I feel like you use an antiquated definition of freedom, like antiquated in your own way. So don't you feel freer now than you did before?
Yes, is the short answer, but you have to have somebody show you, or I had to have somebody show me that I was looking at things all wrong. And she didn't show it to me by telling me it. I just felt in the friction of what was the first 8 months. I remember very early on in our relationship, she said to me, because she didn't think she was going to work around or be able to work around all of my patterns, you don't want this. And I didn't know what she was talking about. Like, I didn't even understand. What are you talking about? We're dating. I'm coming out of a relationship. I'm heartbroken. Like, this is good. This is fun. This is like everything. Oh, and here's the reason for it, by the way. I sent her in an alley to deal with a locksmith because, like an alley behind our house, because I didn't know how to be like a man who handled that shit. Like women handled that shit. My mom handled everything in our house. My father doesn't know how to hang a picture. He never taught me how to hang a picture. I can do nothing. Never mind cabins. I can do nothing. I look at a broken toilet and I'm like, Valerie, what the hell are we going to do about this? She's like, shouldn't you know how to do that? I'm like, I don't know how to do any of this. The thing that I can do at home that is a man's work is I could take that giant water jug and I can pick it up and I can put it over there. That is it. Everything else you got to handle. I don't know how to do anything else. But I'll get to a microphone and make people laugh. That's the truth. I don't know how to do anything. Those LeBatard men and grandparents didn't teach their kids to do anything but work.
Have you learned those things, or you?
No, now well, this is what I learned.
That Valerie doesn't.
No, not Valerie. The greatest lesson the greatest lesson my father ever imparted, and it's absolutely something that I borrowed from him without even knowing it, because I'm doing a million things now that my father used to do. Is my father's only friends were the people who could do that shit. The only friends my father has ever had are the people who can come and help him fix things that a man is supposed to know how to do that he never taught me.
Oh God. This has been incredibly therapeutic for me. I think I don't know if I can speak for you in this, but all the things you talked about, how Valerie's showing you parts of yourself, and I can give a ton of examples where the same things happen for me with Ashley. And the number one example was when I was gonna, or like the most kind of eye-popping, I guess, example is I came out and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to business school. I'm gonna apply to Maryland. I went there. They have a pretty good business school. They'll let me in. And you said how Valerie views you is different than you yourself. My wife was like, what? Maryland? Like, it's a great school. We went there. Like, she chose to go there. She had scholarships to, like, Ivy League schools and stuff. She's like, no, I want to stay close to home. And one of her friends had already went there. So she's like, we like Maryland. We give them money. It's all cool. But she was like, not for business school. Like, you could. I was like, all right, well, I guess I don't have a choice. You better study for the GMAT.
But what were you doing there? You weren't underestimating yourself, right? She wasn't seeing something in you that you didn't believe was in you, right? Or was she saying to you, you're better than this? Like, what's the matter with you? Why are you shooting low?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was underestimating myself, one, and I think the other thing was being considerate of her. It's like she's from D.C., Maryland's just outside of D.C., and I was like, all right. And she was like, no, I'm in this with you. We'll go wherever you want to go. And she had gotten barred in Maryland and D.C. and was like, she was doing special education law at the time. And I was like, we'll go wherever you want to go. And so the funniest thing about the GMAT thing, how I say, like, she's smarter than me. I would be in that room for 8 hours a day, coming out only to poop and eat, studying for the GMAT, and she'd take care of everything. And then she'd come in and take a look at one of my questions and just knock it out the park. One that I've been working on for like an hour. It's like, I really can't get this. And I would like be doing this as like an ego boost. It's like, I'm going to throw it in front of her. She's going to fumble on it, and I'll be okay. And it's like the hardest questions, like 800 level questions. 5 minutes. Nailed it. And I'm like, we doing this wrong? You take your ass in that room.
You guys would have been so much more successful grabbing at whatever the intoxicants are if you had followed her instead of her following you.
Yeah. But she knows better. She's smarter. Like, she knows. I don't know. I feel like she has a better gauge for. And what I was trying to get to before I got distracted by us fawning over our wives, who, like, I can speak for mine. She's not perfect, so leave her alone. Don't try to take her from me. But I was just getting to the idea that this is a good exercise for me because I'm not great with, I do think like I'm like you, but a little bit ahead of you. It's like I wasn't always good with my emotions. I'm better now. I'm still not great with them. but like these are not things that I would say to her unless I've already said them to you.
Is that right?
And I'm gonna go back and say them to her.
She would probably appreciate that if you would communicate these things to her.
Yeah. It seems like she would. It seems like she would. I could just play this for her.
It's simple gratitude.
Hey, cut this up.
That's right. Cut it up and send it
Cut
to
this
her
up.
as a
Send
clip.
it to Ashley. Nah, but I don't know. It's like things that you know. Maybe I just speak for myself, but like I don't know. I feel like when I say I love you, this is what it means.
It covers all of it.
Yeah,
It covers all. I love you. This speaks for all of it. I don't have to give you more words than that, right? I love you. I love you is not enough.
I'm still here, ain't I?
repressed caveman athlete.
I'm gonna go back and tell her, and I'm gonna show her.
Oh, for the love of God.
Baby.
For the love of God.
I learned from the best. You got to end on a laugh.
Greg Cody.
Oh no, he's the worst.